Good morning, everybody.
Morning, Coach.
I felt like after reviewing the game that it's exactly what I thought on Saturday. It's the perfect opener for us because you're 1-0, which was your only objective. You wanted to stay healthy, and we were able to do that. And at the same time, we've got a lot of things to fix. So a lot of positives, should gain some confidence, but you can coach your guys so much harder after a win than you can after a loss, because usually a loss they're down and they're struggling and you've got to pick them back up. Now their expectations are high, like our fans and like college football people across the country. So they learned that we're living with different expectations. Going into last year's game, we were coming off 2 wins and nobody knew if we'd win any games or not. And here we are, we win 31-6 and people are questioning quarters now. I remember that happening when we got really good here before. Well, what happened in the second quarter, man? I thought, well, they don't count quarters, they count games. So proud of the guys. We got a little frustrated in the second quarter. When you go back and study it, the offense only had the ball twice in the second quarter after Daz fumbled a punt and Sam had a tip ball that was intercepted. So overall, though, the game was good. You go back and look, it's the first time that we've won back-to-back season openers against a Power 5 team since 96 and 97. So we've told the guys that. That's impressive. They've got a 4-game winning streak for the first time since 2016. More impressively, the last 4 games, our defense has averaged holding opponents to 9 points and only 247 yards a game. And that's unbelievable in modern day offensive football with the rules and the way people are spread out and the plays that they're making. It's the first time a Carolina defense hasn't given up a TD since Idaho in 2012. More impressively, it's the first time a Carolina defense hasn't given up a touchdown to an ACC opponent since Duke in 2009. We tallied 7 sacks, 11 tackles for a loss. That's the first time we've had that many since 2013 Pitt, but also harassed the quarterback throughout the day and had a lot of pass breakups. So the 202 yards allowed were the fewest that we've given up since the 198 to Boston College in 2009. So that was the last defense that looks like it played great. And that was against some good receivers. I thought 2 of those guys could really run at Syracuse, and Tommy DeVito was really impressive coming into the game. He didn't have a chance because of all of the pressure to throw the ball like he would normally want to. I think we've improved on defense because of our confidence, our depth, and we're stronger in the secondary. We've got more people that have played, and they're more confident, and we can play more man coverage. And when you get pressure like we did, you don't have to cover as long. That's what Dre Blau always said. All those great players up front when he was here harassed the quarterback so much that he didn't have to cover very long. We would like to see more forced turnovers. We had 1 4th down stop on Tamon Fox's tremendous play on the zone read with DeVito, and that's like a turnover. But also we only had the 1 other turnover, which was the interception by Gio Biggers, and that was later in the ball game. Offensively, we played 26 players on defense throughout the game, so that was an objective that we wanted to complete. Offensively, we played 31 players throughout the game. We had the 463 yards, 31 points. All came off of drives. We didn't have many short fields. The 1 shorter field was a punt return by Daz Newsome. 5 for 5 in the red zone, 4 of those touchdowns. The other one, we threw a fade that was out of the back of the end zone. Then Sam has to scramble on 2nd down, and he gets sacked on 3rd down. That's the only time we kicked the field goal and didn't score. I do think the second quarter that we probably scored so quickly in the first quarter that the guys probably felt a little good about themselves, thought it'd be an easy day, but at the same time, we didn't have the ball. And the Syracuse front was good. Their secondary is good. It'll be one of the better secondaries that we play. And those three guys up front could really move, and I thought their defensive coordinator did a good job disrupting things in the first part of the game. We only gave up 2 sacks, and those were things that we can fix. And Sam had 2 interceptions. One of them was just a bad decision to throw deep, and the other one was a tip ball. And as our team has a really high expectation, Sam does too. People expect him to complete every pass every minute, and he is a human being. And we didn't go through spring practice, and obviously the preseason was disrupted. So I was proud of the way the guys handled everything offensively as well. It's also amazing that neither team had a fumble, a strip. The ball that hit Daz on the punt and fumbled was not a strip fumble. So both teams took pretty good care of the football. We look at our kicking game after watching it. I'm really excited about it moving forward. If you go back and look at Ben Kiernan as our punter, he really did a good job of punting, and we had good execution. And it's probably the fact that you don't tackle in special teams, but the first punt return that they had, where they had the block in the back, we have 2 gunners run right by the punt returner, and that's what they've done in practice. I mean, it's but they've got to tackle a guy, and I think that's just the fact that they had not done it before. And then after that, our punt coverage, protection and coverage, was really, really good. Jonathan Kim kicked every ball out of the end zone, or back into the end zone where they couldn't return it on kickoffs, and he'll be a real weapon for us throughout the season. Grayson Atkins, we could have gone for the 4th down with his 50-yard field goal, but I wanted to see him kick it, and it was into a light breeze, and he had plenty of leg. He just pulled it a little bit, and it hit the crossbar, but he was 1 out of 2. He made the 31-yarder and had a chance at the 50. You take Daz Newsome and Michael Carter can be dynamic punt and kickoff returners. We get people spread out and get the ball in those guys' hands. They can make a lot of people miss them. And I was proud of Daz. After he fumbled the 1 punt, he came back and really showed what he can do with people that are going to punt it to him throughout the year. Even having the punt return for a touchdown that had the block in the back by our young rookie. So that was tough for him. The people ask about penalties after the game. Officials have a first game too, and some of those are close. We've turned in a number of those to the conference office today, but we did have too many penalties that were called. We had 9 penalties, and that's too many. We had 10 in the South Carolina game last year, so that's something that we have talked about every day, but something that we do need to and want to clean up. But I do feel like we've got great possibilities in our kicking game for the rest of the year. Players of the week, Chaz Surratt could be the player of the game every week, but the defensive coaches went with Tamari Fox because he was so disruptive up front. The offensive players of the week were both running backs because they're as good as anybody. Those 2 guys are special, and they block, they catch, they're very unselfish. They kind of substitute themselves, and we're very proud of them. And the special teams player of the week was Daz Newsome, and that was obvious with his punt returns and what he's showing for the future. Playing with expectations is different. Like we said, we're 12th and 11 in the polls today. We've told the guys that's all good and that's cool, but with that comes expectations that you'll continue to play well and win, and that you are going to have criticism over a quarter, and you're going to be scrutinized very carefully with every little thing you do. And that I've lived this world. They haven't in a while. So it's just something that they're going to have to understand. I said, you don't play well Saturday, you won't be rated. That's just the world you live in. So if you call it pressure, you can. I call it pride. And it's something that you've got to improve. Playing Charlotte this weekend, we were supposed to play Central Florida at Central Florida, Auburn in Atlanta, and Connecticut here. When all of those got canceled, you'd have to ask Rick Steinbacher how we got to Charlotte, but I think we wanted an in-state game if we could to keep the money in state the best that we could to help the universities, because obviously athletics departments are struggling financially across the country. So That's one of the reasons that the schedule was Charlotte, and they had a game canceled, I think, with Tennessee, so they were available at the same time. Will Healy is their coach. He's a good friend of mine. He's one of the best young coaches in the country. He's smart. He's got high energy. He's very innovative. I love watching him, and he's a superstar. He's got it all moving forward. His guys play with the same energy that he has on the sideline. They're really well coached. I love what they do offensively. They got a bunch of shifts and motions and eye candy. They run the ball to stay on the field, and at the same time, they've got play action passes in a lot of different ways that can catch you off guard. So that's something that our defense will have their hands full trying to figure out this week. They also had a kickoff return for a touchdown against App State. We didn't play well against App State last year, and we know how good their program is, and it was a 21-20 game going into the fourth quarter on the road. So I know that they'll be ready to play, and we better be ready to play. I'm also impressed with Chris Reynolds, their quarterback. He's a real leader and a tough guy, and he's a guy that the players have a lot of confidence in. Questions?
Okay, as a reminder, please use the raise hand function if you have a question, and also identify yourself and the media affiliate you are working with. First up, Andrew Jones, please go ahead.
Andrew Jones with Tar Heel Illustrated. Coach, I think Syracuse had 3 rushing first downs Saturday. They were all quarterback scrambles. What did you like that you saw from the interior front that kind of prevented Syracuse from having any success running the ball and converting anything?
The quickness out of Ray Vahasek and Tamari Fox has been very impressive in preseason camp. Those two guys can move. They're strong. They're hard to block. They've been difficult for us to block. So I thought they really disrupted a lot of things up inside. We got in a couple of areas where we had the wrong lanes when we were rushing, and the quarterback scrambled and made some plays, and that'll be an issue this week because Reynolds can scramble. But that was the biggest thing. And Tamon Fox is always back there. He's always in the backfield. So I thought that those 3 guys were really, really disruptive throughout the game.
And on the other side of the ball, you guys didn't have a lot of rushing touchdowns last year, and certainly not when you were in the red zone. You had 3 in the fourth quarter. How big was it for you guys to show that you can that part of the game might be improved, that you're running the ball in tight situations better and you're able to get in the end zone with the run when you're in the red zone?
It was really important. It's something that Coach Longo and the offensive staff has worked so hard on. It was one of our number 1 emphasis going into spring practice, and we missed that. And then we didn't get a lot of summer work, obviously, with the pandemic. So that's something that our coaches have worked on every day in practice is short yardage and goal line. We were 5 of 13 on third down, so we still need to improve there. But we felt like that you get the ball down around the goal line. We've got to be more physical at times than we were last year. So 4 touchdowns out of 5 trips to the red zone was really, really important for us to walk away with. The one time that we had to kick the field goal, Sam checks to a fade on first down at the 11. He comes back and scrambles on second down and gets it to manageable, and then we have a sack on third down. And that's the only time we didn't get a touchdown, but we came away with points. So very, very pleased with our offense down around the red zone.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Andrew, you had a bad press conference too with your speaking. You need to pick it up, man.
I got it. I'm gonna blame the headphones and the speaker on the headphones.
Can't blame anybody. No excuses, no regrets.
I know it was not a pretty game film yesterday on my microphone.
I understand. I heard people griping about your post-game interviews, though. I said you got to pick it up.
That's not the first time.
Or the last, right?
Yeah, true. Thanks,
I got
Coach.
it. I've been criticized before too, so I can handle it.
Our next question comes from Aaron Beard. Aaron, go ahead.
Hey, Mack. Aaron Beard with the AP. With the penalties you guys had, you just talked on. Obviously, there's first games for officials, but too many penalties. What did you maybe were the most concerned with about the penalties you had? And I don't know if the way that off season and preseason went, like if that also was a factor with with scrimmages and, having officials there, things you might have done normally that you couldn't do?
Aaron, we've had officials at every practice, and we've had very few penalties the last 10 days. So I was surprised and disappointed. A lot of the penalties were in the kicking game, and you aren't doing that as live as just like the kickoff coverage and kickoff returns. Our kickoff returns, we had 2 guys just get run over that were young guys, and they've been working against the scout team, and I mean, they get run over. And they came over the sideline and said, okay, I got it. This is full speed. I got it. It's not scouts anymore. So I think some of those penalties probably were because it's the first time you are going live against really good players. And Syracuse has very good special teams, and they're well coached. And we knew that coming in. Secondly, I thought some of the penalties will turn into to the conference office because you've got to look at them, and they're very questionable, and we're all human. Players are human, but the officials are human too. And sometimes they miss some, and when they do, all we can do is send it to the conference office and ask them to evaluate it. And the hardest ones are holding and pass interference. Those are always the toughest ones early in the year to figure out exactly what you saw and making sure you call it right. But it's an emphasis we have every day, but it gives us a chance to go back and emphasize it. I think the first 2 games last year, we had 10 in the opener and maybe 10 in the second game. We had way too many penalties in the first 2 games last year. I remember that, and hopefully we can clean up some of that this weekend.
Mack, to follow up on that, I was about to ask you about last season because you went from 10 penalties to 1 in your second game against Miami. You had 1 penalty in that game. Are guys more receptive to? You said you can coach them a little harder, and you win when you win despite mistakes. Are guys more receptive after a first game in that type of situation to fixing those types of mistakes? Absolutely.
We'll show every penalty. We will say, we don't think this was a penalty. I'm sorry. We think they called it wrong. We'll say, you messed this up. You can't do this. This is a hit in the back. This is holding, and here's why it's holding. And then we may even have the official talk to them about it at practice, like we did last week when they see one of these in the game. So that's why they say, Aaron, and coaches say it to nauseum, but you improve the most between the first game and the second game. I think it's because you've got live work now, and you've also got things that you can correct. And that's why you improve so much between week 1 and week 2.
Thanks, Mack.
Thank you, Aaron.
All right, next question is from CL Brown. CL, go ahead.
Hi, Coach CL Brown with the News and Observer. I was wondering if you could take me through kind of your method to making halftime adjustments. Obviously, the game is, you can make it in between series. So I was just kind of wondering, what do you hold to kind of elaborate further upon for, to get to the locker room to do as opposed to just coming and tweaking on the sidelines?
CL, you try to tweak it on the sideline, but it's an easy time to get all your coaches together with me at halftime, and I get to tell them what I'm seeing and what I'm thinking, and they split up. And we've got really, really good coaches that have been doing this a long time, and they all decide what is working, what are we seeing on defense, what will work better. And they talk about it during the game, obviously, and you try to make some adjustments. But as I said, the offense also didn't have the ball in the second quarter. They didn't have it much, and Syracuse moved it some. And then not only did we have the drop punt by Daz and the tip ball by Sam, we also roughed the punter, or we would have had another series at the end. So it wasn't just the offense in the second quarter. It were a lot of things around the offense that led to the issues that we had. But everybody talks about halftime adjustments. You're exactly right. You try to make the adjustments throughout the game. And we probably made those adjustments in the second quarter. They just weren't visible because we didn't have the ball.
All right, and a follow-up off of the penalties you mentioned earlier, you sent a few to the conference office. I was wondering if one of those was the hit on Sam that they reviewed to see if it was flagrant and decided it wasn't.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is JB Ricks.
Hey, Coach. JB Ricks from Spectrum News One. Congrats on the win. You mentioned a lot of firsts taking place in your introduction. And forgive me if I missed you mentioning this, but you guys are ranked 12th, I believe, in the AP poll. It's the highest ranking since the late 90s or whatnot for the Carolina program. How easy or harder is it for you to keep that as a distraction or not becoming distraction for your players, considering the circumstances of this entire college landscape right now?
JB, I think it's the highest ranking since Larry's team won 11. I'm not sure, but Jeremy could check that for you. But it is the first time that we've won opening games against Power 5 teams back-to-back since 96, 97. So what we do is we take Sunday to talk about the goods and the concerns. So anytime we see the ranking, I told them after practice yesterday, you were ranked 12th and 11th. Good for you, congratulations. You did that because you finished well last year, and you were ranked that way because you played well Saturday and beat an ACC team by a large margin. The only way that stays is you keep doing that. And you have to keep doing it week to week because people still aren't sure about you. You're the new kid on the block. So they're going to wait and see. And if you keep playing well, you'll be rated. If not, then it's gone. And then we do not mention it again. But Sunday and Monday is our time, or really Sunday, if you've got the ratings at that time. It's our time to talk about the state of college football and the state of the program. And then we say, let's drop it and go to work. That's it. I told them it's a lot more fun to play with expectations and win, but it's a lot harder because people start circling you on the schedule. They play you differently. They come in thinking now they have to upset you, where last year they did our first 2 games. Nobody thought we were going to win either one of them. And you got to play hard, and you got to play hard every week, and you got to play well every week. And they can see now that with the scrutiny and people uncomfortable with their second quarter and their slow start, that they're going to be scrutinized much more than they were last year at any time. So that's just part of the life you live with and what it's going to be like for them moving forward. And I said, that's the way you want it. You want people holding you to a very high standard. But to do that, you got to practice that way every day, and you got to play that way every day. And we'll see if they're ready to do that.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Next question comes from Dina King. Dina, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. My question, you got a lot of talent at the running back and wide receiver position. How big was it to get the tight end and Garrett Walston established so early in the game?
It was really important, Dana, to get Garrett the ball. We had another we thought would have been a touchdown to him, and he got hung up at the line of scrimmage and couldn't get out. And there were a couple other targets to him that just didn't get to him for one reason or another. So we want our tight end to be a factor in what we're doing, especially as people are going to back off of us a little bit and try to make us throw the ball underneath. Syracuse said, you're not going to beat us deep. And last year we got so spoiled, we'd go out there and just throw it deep to Diami or throw it deep to Bo Corrales. And we weren't able to do that as easily Saturday. So we can't force those things. We've got to learn to have more patience offensively, and that's where the tight end will come in. But Garrett played an outstanding game, period. A block that he made for Javonte on the corner. He was one of the key reasons that those red zone offensive plays worked, because he was such a good blocker inside the box on his kickout blocks. So it was definitely the best game that Garrett Walston has played since he's been here.
Thank you.
All right, let's go over to Greg Barnes. Greg, go ahead.
Hey, Mac, going back to JB's question about expectations, entering last year, the guys weren't sure if they could win a game late. I know confidence building was a big aspect of last year. So now you're having to talk to them about they're getting some criticism because maybe they didn't play a quarter. as well as some fans or media would expect. Did that confidence change? Was that something you could see kind of switch on a dime, or was that just a slow, gradual process of the coaches really working with the players?
It was a gradual process. The players started asking last year, how do you win? Well, I mean, how do we do this? What are we doing wrong? And what I've told them is just like we took yesterday, the 3 plays before the fourth quarter punt to Daz that the defense had a 3 and out. Syracuse punts, Daz runs it back to the 35, 40-yard line. Sam throws to Diami, and we run it in. And we're talking about the process of winning. It's everybody. It's the defense that holds them. It's the punt return for field position, and then 2 quick plays for the offense. That's how you score. It's not roughing the punter. It's not dropping the punt. It's not getting a sack or throwing an interception backed up, because our defense had 3, I think, sudden changes in our territory where they made them kick field goals or stop them. So I think it just continues to be that process to win. Everybody gets frustrated and says, what a bad second quarter. Well, the defense didn't play a bad second quarter. The special teams messed up twice, and the offense threw an interception. So what we try to do is be practical and show them exactly what happened so they won't get emotional about it. I thought offensively we got frustrated some in the second quarter. And I got frustrated some in the second quarter because I was mad too. My job and our offensive coach's job is to figure out why and go back and sit down and be practical about it and not be mad about it. And that's where I think that it's a process of them learning how to win. And even it's funny that all my buddies after a win in the state are texting me saying, well, it's good that you and Sally finally showed up at halftime, man. Great win. Or somebody said, yeah, what'd you do? Did you go in for the second quarter? Did you not see it? So I get about 15 or 20 text messages like that. And what I ended up saying, 1-0, mission accomplished, thank you. Go to sleep. That's it. But I think that's the process that you have to teach your team. The players will hear, well, you stunk the second quarter. No, you didn't. We had a tip ball. We had a drop punt. We roughed the punter. Those are 3 things we can fix. So our job is to figure out how to fix it and let them see what they could have done to do better. The other thing it is that you just don't go blow people out. I mean, they got scholarships too. And you can win a lot more games in the fourth quarter than you can the first quarter. We've always said those 2-yard runs in the first quarter become 12-yard runs in the fourth quarter if you've got your momentum and you're beating people down. It's like a heavyweight boxing match. And the longer the game goes and you're playing a lot of depth with confidence, then you beat the other team down in the fourth quarter.
Thanks, Mack.
All right, last one for Coach. David Hale, go ahead.
Hey, Mack, appreciate it. You mentioned a few of the special teams problems. I don't think that was unique to UNC from the games I watched on Saturday. Do you feel like the odd offseason, the lack of typical practices and some of the changes that had to be implemented due to the virus showed up potentially on special teams more than they might have showed up other areas?
David, I do. And it's because you don't get to do those things as much in spring practice, and they're harder to do. You're also using a lot of young players on special teams. And maybe those guys, a lot of them haven't even been in a game before, or they haven't played very much. I think the other thing, David, is I asked our guys yesterday, when did you think we were going to play? And it was really interesting. Some of them didn't think we were going to play till last Sunday. And some thought maybe 10 days ago. So by and large, these guys, in their mind, they were practicing, they were trying, but they weren't prepared to play a game 10 days ago or maybe even a week ago. And then they look up and say, oh my gosh, I think we're actually going to play. Man, we better get ready to go. So after watching the NFL, as strange as it was last night and yesterday, some for no fans, I think it'll help all the teams in their second week a lot more than the first week, just because we'll be more prepared for no pageantry and no band and no cheerleaders and no students. and no bell tower walk when you walk in. Everything is so different that it'll be more normal this week. And I think because of that, everybody will have a chance to play better.
Do you mind if I follow up on that real quick? When did you think for sure that you were going to play?
I thought, I didn't think we were going to play after the Big Ten and the Pac-12 decided not to. I thought everybody would just say, let's forget it. And I said this last week, David, but I'm so proud of John Swofford, the ACC, the presidents and chancellors in the ACC, and the athletics directors, because they did it right, in my opinion. They took their time. They asked the medical experts as if it was safe. And all of our players said, we want to play. Our coaches wanted to play in this league, but not if it wasn't safe. But they took their time. They watched pro basketball and baseball and football and hockey and learned from them. And when they thought it was safe for us to play, they were 100% to turn us loose. So I really felt like we would play most of the time since those two conferences pulled out. When the NCAA was looking at whether they would have fall sports or not, I thought that might derail us, and it didn't. And then when our campus had some positives, I thought that might derail us, and it didn't. So I was concerned at a couple of times there, but by and large, I thought since right before we started, I thought we were going to play. And we had to be very careful with our team because we wanted to be honest with them, and we wanted to always tell them exactly what we knew, but we didn't know for sure. And I told them that. I kept saying, I think we're going to play. I can't promise you we're going to play because that's not my decision, but I think you're going to play. And they were so happy as far as the game and their excitement after the game and all of that. They couldn't have been any different than last year's win over South Carolina. They were really excited that they played. They were proud. They've handled all this stuff so well. I mean, it's so much has been thrown on these young people, and I'm just so proud of the way they handled it that I couldn't be more pleased. They've been incredible the way they've acted.